Hello and welcome back to An Abundance of Naught. It is June the 10th and we have missed you guys. Garrett here, your host, along with Brad and Wade.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
How you guys doing?
Just wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah?
Laugh a minute.
Zippy?
Just zippy.
That is good to hear. For our listeners, we did not do a show last week, partially because, Brad, you were not available, and I, in turn, became not available, so felt Wade, he could have done his own thing, but...
Could have. I'm just lazy.
There you go.
Could have done your own thing, but yeah, why?
Forgive some of the background noise. It's about 80 degrees in the studio right now, so I'm trying to keep cool.
Same here.
You need an AC in there, dude.
I would be awesome, actually.
Yeah.
There is
In
no
my studio, it's currently about 71.
Where is your studio at this week?
My studio this week is in the wonderful mountains of Vermont.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so there are about two places in the entire... this is a family-friendly podcast. The entire town where...
That get internet?
That get cell phone service.
Wow.
For most of my stay here, my phone sits on no service.
So much for that nationwide coverage.
I know, right?
Cable.
Yes.
No, it doesn't even go that far. Seriously, my phone says no service. It doesn't even try.
It's so bad, no effort was made at all.
The
You
screen
know how sometimes on your phone it comes up and says, it'll have the name of your carrier with no bars? Mm-hmm. There's something there. It's trying really hard. No, mine just gave up. It said no service.
Yeah, you might as well put it on airplane mode.
try to call. You try to call, it just puts a middle finger on the screen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not today, sir. Not today. Well, let's talk about last week. Brad, you were enjoying a very rare vacation.
I was. And quite a large one, too. I ended up with I think it ended up being a 10-day weekend.
You rat bastard.
I got tired of hearing about you and your 4-day weekends. Three-day, 4-day weekends. I will see your 4-day weekend, sir, and raise you a 10-day.
Well, I'm going to have another 4-day weekend here in a couple of weeks, and I'm thinking about making that another 10, 12-day weekend.
Yeah.
The thoughts crossed my mind.
You just can't stand the fact that I beat you. So,
Trust me, I know the feeling. No, this was actually a thing. I think I once got the Xbox 360, knowing that Garrett would try to beat me and he'd get a PS3.
Nah, only I got a used copy and saved a bunch of money.
by switching to Geico.
By switching to Geico. Geico, now proud sponsor of... No.
No, you wish.
They're not proud. No.
Deep pockets. Hey, Geico, sponsor us.
That's right.
I have Geico insurance. Come on.
We do not.
Fair.
We are not represented by a lizard.
Or cavemen, for that matter.
Those were good commercials, though.
I really, identified with them. Anyway.
Remember that horrible sitcom they tried to do with those?
I didn't get a chance to watch it. There was a pilot or a couple episodes. That would have been hilarious.
It was a couple of episodes, but I don't think it went anywhere.
Yeah,
no, it didn't.
One
It
episode.
died really quick.
One episode, that's all I saw.
I bet it's on YouTube or torrent.
Probably.
Not that I would advocate piracy.
Not that I would advocate getting caught piracy.
Anyhow.
Doing piracy? Piracying?
Pirating?
Sure.
Yeah, that.
That's a word.
So, where do I begin? Let's start
at the beginning.
Yes.
Shoot out of sequence. Let's go with the ending.
Pull a Fight Club moment. Start at the end. We'll go back.
Most good shows are shot out of sequence, actually.
Yeah.
Much like some of the first
edited
Harry
later.
Potters.
Anyway, we digress multiple times. So, thankfully, we rented a car and did not take one of our own because we ended up driving about 2,700 miles.
First oil change?
Doggy.
What's that?
I said, woo, doggy.
Oh, yeah.
First oil change?
Just to give everyone perspective, 2,700 miles is longer than driving from San Diego to New York City. I've checked.
So, we started in our home base, northern Midwest, northeast Indiana. We drove to Atlanta, visited my dad as a stopover. From there, we went to Orlando, to Disney World, where we opted to visit one of their water parks. So we spent the day at Blizzard Beach. Absolute riot. Definitely recommend it. It's nowhere near as crowded as the main Disney park. So you actually get to do the stuff there. I'm not big on thrill rides myself, but the family got to go on everything. The wait time was usually under 20 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. So they actually got to do everything in the park, which was awesome.
That's cool.
From there, we drove to Panama City Beach, where my grandparents actually have a beach house. So we spent most of the rest of the week on the beach. And then one day we rented a boat for the day. So we spent the boat on Panama City, not on the Gulf side. There's like an inland lagoon in the harbor kind of area.
Did I see that there was a day where you were left in the hotel or beach house and your family went to the beach without you?
Yeah, so that was actually very sweet. One of the first days down there, everybody woke up and my lovely wife decided that she would allow me to sleep in that morning. So
is that what she decided?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So they let me sleep in and they went down to the beach without me. Which was perfectly fine by me. I needed the sleep. So yeah, they got to do parasailing. So we've got some video above the bay in Panama City. I've
always been kind of conflicted with parasailing. It always looked cool as hell and scary as hell at the same time.
Yeah, again, that kind of plays back into the whole, I'm not a big fan of thrill stuff. But my wife said that once it was a little bit of a wild ride getting up. Not too bad, it was a little bit wild taking off. But once you took off, it was fairly smooth and settled down, and it was kind of like a swing in the sky.
See, I think I've seen one too many of those horror shows of things that can go wrong. Where
Sure.
It ends up being shark-infested water and the boat breaks down, so you slowly drift down into the water where the sharks are circling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a fan of that.
As far as I know, there's no sharks there. There were dolphins, though. We did get to see some dolphins while we were cruising around.
Nice.
And we were, the kids got in the water with them. They never came up because you're not allowed to pursue them, but they were hoping that maybe the dolphins would come up to them. But they did not. But they were in the water fairly close by the dolphins, so that was fun. So from there, we traveled back to Atlanta and went to a friend's wedding. Got to hang out with the family for a little while, and then drove home.
Now, with that drive, what was kind of your shift cycles? How'd you guys go about it? Because that's a long trek.
So on the trip down, my wife drove for about an hour and a half while I napped, and then I drove the rest of the time.
Wow.
By choice.
Sure.
Yeah, I like being in the driver's seat. She likes being in the passenger seat. It works well for us. There were a couple times she offered, you ready for a break? And hop over. I'm fine.
Fair enough. Cool.
The drive down, we went straight shot, so that's about a 10-hour drive to Atlanta.
Okay.
6 to Orlando, about 6 to Panama City, about 7 back up to Atlanta, and then the drive home from Atlanta we actually split over 2 days.
Got it.
We did a layover in Louisville, Kentucky.
Ah, very nice. Did you pick up a baseball bat?
No.
Oh. For those who don't get that reference, the famous wooden baseball bats are called Louisville Sluggers.
I did catch that.
Yeah, so did I.
Some may not have. We might have the younger audience a little bit occasionally. Who knows? Just trying to cater to the masses.
So, that was my excessively long vacation and personal stuff. Shenanigans.
Very good. Did we talk about San Andreas, the movie, last podcast?
I don't think so.
I can't
I don't
remember.
think so either.
Okay. So, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, I went and saw that. So we'll talk about that in the movies. Trying to think what else we did 2 weekends ago.
Pretty dry, like, couple of weeks, actually.
Did we go to the sport? No, because the sports park we did Saturday. There's a really big, Brad, you may have seen it when you were in town at the old building. Maybe not. You haven't been to you weren't at the old building towards the end of the reign.
No.
But the city that we live in Southern California, they do really well on acquiring their taxes from the citizens and typically don't spend or have to reinvest it too much into maintenance and care. So that leaves them with a surplus. But the way, at least California, and I assume most states are this way, that if a city has too much stockpile of revenue, they then donate or have to pay that to the state for state maintenance. So what the city of Lake Forest did is they took that money and invested it in a very large, very well done sports park, a couple miles up from us. Mm-hmm. It's got like 4 baseball diamonds, a softball diamond, had 2 big soccer fields of artificial turf, and a lot of community area. It was pretty cool. So we checked that out a couple weeks ago, and we might pop up there this weekend to see if anyone's playing soccer or baseball. I played baseball for many years and umpired for a number of those years.
Both of us, except for I didn't umpire.
Yeah. And then I did soccer for about 6 years as a kid, and it's always entertaining to watch soccer. Speaking of, the World Cup is going on now for the ladies. Men's was 2 years ago, and therefore again in 2 years. And the men's friendly tournament is going on now. And shout out for us, USA beat Germany one of the first times ever, at least in Germany, 2-1.
Wasn't there some like hullabaloo about the FIFA tournament?
Well, there's FIFA, which is different from the World Cup.
There was something about for the FIFA Cup. Where, like, it was
there
whole
was
thing.
Judges. There was a lot of hoopla with the judges from the World Cup for the men's, I believe, or it may have been the men's 2 years ago about biased judges and judges coming out and saying that.
No, this stuff required.
There's a big corruption scandal going on right now. The head of FIFA just stepped down.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're under investigation for. What is it?
Was it like slave?
Could be wrong. It's almost like racketeering or something.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Major.
I read an interesting article yesterday, actually, that for us, our women's World Cup goalie, last name Solo, I believe, is under some scrutiny, actually. She was arrested under domestic violence charges not long ago. I guess she was... The story is that she was drunk and she assaulted her sister and nephew or something like that. Wow. The initial case, the charges were dropped or was thrown out, but the people essentially of the court are appealing, and whoever wrote the article or the individual covering the story was pointing the finger at then the World Cup coach and the head of the administration, at least for the U.S., because they're just kind of overlooking it so she can play. Whereas with the NFL players right now, anything resulting domestic violence, their players are on suspension and all that kind of stuff. So there's some interesting stuff in the media with that right now.
You mean women are getting special privilege in order for them to...
Not being faced with the same scrutiny that NFL players are facing, at least.
And yet they say women are oppressed.
They are. Don't start.
No, well, I'll start this after.
We'll get into it more aggressively later, I'm sure. But this past weekend, this kind of leads into a story a little bit later, but we'll touch base on it now. A very new housing development not far from us had a kind of community event for either residents or just general, just the public on showcasing the community and just kind of socializing. Well, Tesla was there. And
what?
Yes. For those of us who follow us on Twitter, they may have seen the picture we tweeted out. They had a demo event for those who registered online. Now, I was registered, but apparently, I was registered for. My mom actually registered me as an early Father's Day thing, but never got an RSVP, so we showed up anyway. And luckily enough, a spot had opened up, and I had the opportunity to drive the Tesla Model S 85D.
Nice.
So that is
So it's the four-wheel drive version.
It's the dual motor, 4-wheel drive, and it's the 85. I don't know if it's amperage or whatever. What the 85? 85 designates the amount of power.
Yep.
So
it's battery size.
Yeah. So
It's the 300-mile version.
Well, they claim 240.
Okay.
I'm sure, obviously, on the conservative side. They say that, and this is all coming from either general sales manager or general manager of, I believe, Tesla Mission Viejo, that a single annual service of $600 covers bumper to bumper, top to bottom on the car. You should not have to touch anything on the car aside from taking it into that service once a year. They have Brembo brakes on them, but because of the regenerative braking system with the batteries and the motors, you actually you hardly really have to touch the brakes if you manage your driving right. I mean, I got off the gas at one point and the car would have come to a complete stop, but they have kind of a coast mode that you can enable or disable, which allows the vehicle to, like in a standard car, when you let off the gas, it starts to creep. Mm-hmm. They have a mode that will allow it to do that, or if you disable it, it will stay still, and you have to hit the accelerator to go. Had that feature been set up on that one, and it had the coast feature on, if it didn't have the coast feature on, it would have come to a complete stop, and I wouldn't. And it's pretty aggressive on the slowdown.
Oh, yeah.
It's like if you're driving a manual transmission and you're in a high RPM and you let off the gas while maintaining the car in gear. You don't push the clutch in or pull in a neutral. You leave it in gear. That kind of compression factor is what it feels like when you let off the accelerator in a Tesla, which was pretty impressive.
So how was the ride overall?
The ride was fantastic.
Was it closed circuit, or did you actually get on?
No, it was just community streets. Yeah, it wasn't like a closed track, unfortunately. I did make the test driver advisor tell me to slow down at one point, which is always a goal. I mean, I was on a 45 mile per hour street doing about 85. So, it's fine. And he really said he didn't care how fast I go, but he was mindful of me getting a speeding ticket.
And at those kind of speeds, it would be more than a ticket.
So there's a risk I'm willing to take. But at the same time, it's strange. You hear very little. I'm trying to pick my words very, very carefully because I'm a car guy and I want to say engine noise
from the car.
But there's no engine, so it's not engine noise. But you do hear a little bit of motor noise when it winds up, but it's extremely minimal. Now, I'm a V8 fan. I love the throatiness of a V8 engine, and there's not that. Interestingly enough, too, there's not anything, really. You get a little bit of motor whine from the electric motors, but it's faint. What I also found interesting is that the cars don't have an ignition button or key or whatever. You have a fob for your pocket, and it works all on proximity, but when you get in the car, it's active. When you get out of the car, it goes into inactive mode, but it doesn't really ever shut off.
Right.
Which I thought was strange.
Well, that's so they can push their over-the-air updates that improve your mileage.
Yep. And I didn't know this either because I'd never seen one in the flesh up close usable, but the door handles actually pop out when you're in a certain... I thought they just pivoted within the door slot, but they actually protrude out when you're close to be able to open it. So I thought that's kind of cool. But yeah, it was just a really small, really short, 7-10 minute max little test drive. So, I mean, after the fact, if I were to do it again, I'd probably look into more of some of the features, but I was really focused on just the ride. Now, because...
Did you have the GoPro?
I didn't. Did not have the GoPro.
You knew there was a chance you would drive a Tesla.
I didn't actually.
No, he did not.
It was a surprise to me.
It was
we're going here, and when I pulled in, I go, oh, wow, Tesla's here. And my mom said, yep, that's what we're doing. I was like, oh, okay. That's cool. So,
but in any case, the community center where the event was being hosted was very nice.
Yeah, it's a new community. It's gorgeous. A little pricey because it's all new construction, but some wide variety of stuff and really community-minded, which is cool.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that's that. I can't think of anything else to tag on to that. Do you have anything, Wade?
Everything like you did, I did kind of as a bystander, I guess.
Pretty much true.
Yeah.
He's like a shadow. All right, so let's jump into some movies. I can remember which buttons activate the sound bites, because I almost hit the wrong one. I'm going to quickly run through the movies from last week, just the titles and the critic rating, as well as box office for both weeks. And we only have one new movie to talk about this week. If you don't know what that is, you're living under a rock. So last week, Spy came out.
Maybe what the movie is you want to be under a rock.
Yeah, perhaps. Last week, movie Spy came out. This is with Melissa McCarthy, Jude Law, and a few others. Rated at 95% as of last week. Pretty impressive. Entourage, the movie, was released at 22%. Not so awesome. Insidious Chapter 3.
Is this related to this series? The
Directly.
Series?
Yes, it's the same cast, and they did a movie option.
Okay.
I was curious about it. I never really got into the show. I saw a few episodes. I've heard that the movie, like most shows gone movies, you don't need to be too familiar with the show to understand the movie.
No, it's just a really long episode.
It's not even really that long. I mean, an episode's an hour. This is a little bit longer, but not that much. But, I'd heard decent things, but 22%, the critics didn't love it. And Insidious Chapter 3 was released, and at the time, there was no critic rating on that. The box office for last week showed San Andreas at 54.6 million. Pitch Perfect 2 brought in 14.8. Tomorrowland brought in 14.3. And Mad Max pulled in 14.2. This week in movies, releasing is Jurassic World. Big surprise. 73%, so above average. PG-13, so it's, for the most part, fine for most ages. With Chris Pratt and Vincent D'Onofrio. If you don't know that name, he is from Law & Order. He was also in The Judge with Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. You'll recognize the face if you see him. And Bryce Dallas Howard, who is the daughter of Ron Howard, the excessively successful producer. Synopsis on this one, Rotten Tomatoes didn't really have much, but from what I've gathered from the movies, man decides that, reviving dinosaurs isn't enough. Let's genetically modify them. And all hell breaks loose.
Because that always goes well.
Because that's always, it's fine.
Next thing you know, we'll tame them and ride them into battle.
The fact that we revived them in the first 3 movies didn't, stop us.
Exactly.
Because that went so well.
Correct. Let's do it again. Let's do it more.
Let's go bigger.
Yeah, exactly. Let's make one of the biggest, strongest killing machines ever walked this planet. Let's genetically alter it to make it bigger, more ferocious, and more horrible.
And more intelligent.
Well,
which
that's
I think
science,
that's
right? the first 3 experiments didn't work, so obviously we need to go bigger.
That's right. Now, I mean, scientifically speaking, though, one could make an argument that even if we had the technology to revive dinosaurs, they may not necessarily survive all that well based on atmospheric conditions then to now. But that's a different conversation.
And even if we could do it, why would you?
Why are we wasting it on dinosaurs, for that matter?
Exactly. In the box office this week, Spy came in top at $29.1 million, San Andreas $25.8, Insidious at $22.7, and Entourage at $10.3. Now, from seeing San Andreas, being a Southern California born and bred resident, born and raised, rather, concerning excessive on some deals, but at the same point, it's obviously rooted in some degree of reality. A lot of stuff came out about this movie about its falsities. They showed kind of earthquakes traveling alongside the fault line, whereas if the fault did legitimately move, it would be simultaneous. I mean, it's The Rock, and I forget the girl's name, but she was in Percy Jackson 1 and 2.
Yeah, but he's hot.
Okay.
All right.
You want a moment?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
Just saying.
All right.
He's a good-looking guy.
I mean, he's a decent specimen of a male. Sure. She is quite attractive, which is kind of hilarious because she's actually 29 years old and she's portraying a girl who is 18 headed off to college. So
good for her.
Kind of interesting.
She's
Yeah,
a late
I mean,
bloomer.
She can portray herself, and she's not a late bloomer in some regards.
I never said immaturity-wise. I meant to college.
No. But good on her for being able to portray 10 years younger than she is. That's all I'm saying. No, but it was really entertaining, and it was really suspenseful. The entire movie, you were kind of tense and on edge, which is nice to see. You know, you're not only are you just entertained, but it is riveting and is captivating. So I do recommend seeing it. One caveat for me is I never saw 2012 with John Cusack, and I imagine they're essentially the same movie. But I can't speak to that directly. I've heard a lot of similarities between the two. That's why they say that. Finally, in the movies, for noteworthy movie news topics, the trailer of the movie The Martian was released, I believe, yesterday, and it had much of the world captivated. If you haven't seen it, this is not rated by either the critics or for content, but is with Matt Damon and Jeff Daniels, Kate Mara, Sean Bean, and many, many others.
I've never heard of this. What?
The trailer was just released yesterday. Very strong space science-y movie like we've seen a lot lately with Interstellar and Gravity. So, interesting synopsis, and let's see if I can not butcher this thing. During a manned mission to Mars, astronaut Mark Watney is presumed dead after a fierce storm and left behind by his crew. But Watney has survived and finds himself stranded all alone on a hostile planet. With only meager supplies, he must draw upon his ingenuity, wit, and spirit to subsist and find... subsist? Is that a word? Sure.
Yes.
I typed it. And find a way to signal to Earth that he is alive. Millions of miles away, NASA and a team of international scientists work tirelessly to bring the Martian home, while his crewmates concurrently plot a daring, if not impossible, rescue mission. As these stories of incredible bravery unfold, the world comes together to root for Watney's safe return. This is based on a best-selling novel and is directed by the one and only Ridley Scott.
So, I have read the book.
Have you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's awesome.
I've heard that.
If the movie does it any kind of justice, it will be worth seeing. The science is mostly accurate.
As you can expect from a movie. I mean, they're going to take some liberties.
Well, and even with the book, I listened to an interview of the author. There were only a couple places, 2 or maybe 3 places where he exaggerates the physics slightly for effect. But apart from that, the science is fairly accurate, and the story is suspenseful and very well done, and the book was extremely enjoyable. Not very long. I want to say it was only 300 pages or so.
Okay.
Which, considering Game of Thrones, those books are all, 1,200.
Sure. You and I both follow the Tested group with Adam Savage of Mythbusters.
Yes.
And he is an avid fan of the book, the science of the book. He's read it multiple times and listened to the audiobook. He actually, and on the Tested page, they posted a video of him watching the trailer and just being in awe. And
got to look that up.
Yeah. You only see a little bit of the trailer at the beginning, but it's mostly just, you just see him watching it, and he is just beside himself with excitement and anticipation. So
awesome.
If you're a fan of Mythbusters, check out their Tested YouTube page. Adam is fairly involved with that. And you can see that video of his reaction to the Martian trailer.
Cool. And I need to go see the trailer as well.
I do too. I've seen just screenshots of it. So good things to come. With that, the news. I told you I'd screw up the sound bites.
Absolutely. I had confidence in you.
Thanks.
So, a little bit of a late start to the news this evening, but seeing as we mentioned Tesla, we're going to lead the news with Tesla.
Fantastic.
We had covered several months ago that they had released, or announced rather, their Powerwall solution as a way to buffer the power output of renewable energy sources, wind, solar, etc.
Yes.
Obviously, those power outputs only exist while their respective sources, i.e., for solar panels, it only works during the daytime and when it's sunny. So Tesla's battery wall concept, power wall, is a battery to buffer the excess energy during the day and supply that back at night. Fairly successful. In the first week that it was announced, they have 38,000 reservations.
Wow.
Not bad.
Not at all.
But the overall reaction was mixed, and when they went back and did a poll and tried to ascertain what the problem was, the overwhelming consensus is that it wasn't quite enough power. They were slightly underpowered. So, Tesla and Musk being who they are, the products have been revamped. They're not even released yet, but they have been revamped, doubling the capacity without any increase in price. So if you had reserved a 2.5 kilowatt steady use system, you will be getting a 5 kilowatt system.
Yeah, and I think I read that same system had a peak kilowatt of something like 3.3.
And will now be 7.
And it'll now be 7. Yeah, so impressive. I mean,
yeah.
A new product. B, listening to the community. And then taking care of the concerns without any impact to that community.
Yeah, I obviously it's been no secret that I am a Tesla and a Musk fan. So this is just once again a kudos to them for rapid response and for wanting to do the right thing. Hey, this isn't going to work. Well, we're not going to charge you anymore, but let's make it right.
Yep, exactly. And we got more on that?
There's, just a little bit more. The home system is actually only a small part of this play. Last week, Tesla closed a deal with Advanced Microgrid Solutions to supply the company with battery packs for electric utilities, in the order of 500 megawatt hours
Jeez.
worth of batteries.
Nice.
So, as they spool up their gigafactory in Nevada for their batteries next year, they are definitely looking to play big. The home market is just a tiny drop in the ocean.
Yeah, they're going after the big fish.
Oh, yeah.
And not really from a profitability standpoint. I mean, obviously there's profit there, but, Elon's mentality is to really kind of change the way we live.
Yep.
From the cars, from the battery, et cetera, et cetera. And, some things take a little while to get traction, but once they do, they seem to jump to the forefront. Another example of that is the Model X, the SUV. We've talked about this a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
Tesla started taking orders on this model in 2012. And by the end of last year, 2014, they had over 20,000 orders for the vehicle. Elon came out and said that the delivery should start in the next 3 to 4 months, pushing the release date to September, October. The list price has not yet been announced. I believe when I was at the Tesla event this weekend, they said that all the 2016 models are spoken for. So if you were to go put an order in now, you won't get it for well over a full year.
Might as well be putting your name in for 2017.
Exactly. Now, it's important to say, too, though, that all these cars are built to order. They do not do a standard production. Everything is built per spec, per request. Even if you lease, they build it to your specification, which I thought was really interesting. Yes, you can lease a Tesla.
I want one.
Yeah. We'll talk about price later.
Don't we all?
Elon said they're still working on some of the fine details. It's not the main parts of the car now. It's adding the bells and whistles, and he hinted at a few surprises that the consumers have not yet been made aware of. So he's got a few tricks up his sleeve. Now, the current model, the Model S, they recently upgraded to the dual motor option, which is what I experienced this past weekend. That will be standard on the Model X. So they will have the all-wheel
awesome.
drive.
So it's going to be all-wheel drive.
That's correct. And Elon went on to say that the Model S and potentially the Model X will have the capability for some self-driving functions. We've talked about this before with a software update that could allow the car to have some autonomous capabilities. He remarks that these functions could include parking the car after the driver gets out. So you pull up to where you want it to park, you get out of the car and walk away, and it parks for you. It could also potentially fetch drivers and passengers, provided you're on private property. So say you go to the grocery store and you can initiate it to come pick you up at the front door. Don't know.
Assuming the grocery store allows that.
Of course. And that's all with that presumption.
Oh, yeah.
And he said beta testing for this autonomous stuff could start with some owners as soon as the end of this month, June 2015.
Wow.
So big things in the world of Tesla, both in the power sector and in the transportation sector. So stay tuned.
Well, jumping ship from cars, we get to the biggest gaming event of the year. E3 is next week. Our next episode. Yep. Our next episode, we will be right in the middle of it, with all three of the big guys doing their press conferences on the same day we do our podcast. So, yay.
You mean 2.5?
2.5 big guys.
Who was the half?
Microsoft really doesn't know how to play ball.
Oh, I was meaning Nintendo.
I know what you were thinking. I had to jab at you a little bit.
You had to. Yeah, I suppose Sony might show up.
Yeah, they don't have to, though. They're so successful.
Anyway.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, Twitch is once again offering a full viewing of the events and inside look into the games, I have posted, or there is a link in the show notes for their schedule for the events, and this is a very cautious time for this event due to this is the first E3 since the inception of Gamergate, the group that is advocating journalist ethics within the media.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it could be really interesting to make sure that things are covered in a non-bias, non-gender specific or whatever focused mentality. It's interesting the way this whole kind of political run is going.
But not only for Gamergate, it's also a test for journalists.
Yep.
You know, it's Gamergate will be going through them with a fine-tooth comb, but everyone else will be going through Gamergate with a fine-tooth comb.
Yeah, and it gets kind of, this is a tricky topic because, the media can cover anything any way they want. Yeah, Gamergate will give them some grief for it, but there's not going to be any real penalties.
Well, they aren't going to give grief if it's, non-biased.
But should they do something that's biased, Gamergate can't do anything other than badmouth them. They're not a legal entity. They can't prosecute them because it borderlines falls under freedom of speech. They can say and portray anything any way they want. Does it make it right? No. But
Gamergate has had major advancements in ethics due to major sites like Kotaku and The Escapist instituting policies. Sure,
and I'm not going to argue that. I just say there's no consequences aside from slander.
They do have several amounts of evidence. Some where people do believe, how do I say, it's a tricky subject. They have evidence of collusion. If you do want to look into that, you can look up the Gamer Journalist Pro List, which was just a mailing list of people within gaming journalist media. And they broke that. But, there's a whole case of that Gamergate was basically harassing a certain 3 women, even though they pretty much go and say no, but every time they try to call out someone on journalistic ethics, the journalist always bring up one of these 3 women and, oh, look how they're treating women, and it just goes back to the same thing.
Brad, you're being very quiet.
Yeah.
I am being quiet. I'm just going to generally, I hope the conference goes well. I hope it stays clean.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the events that led into the whole Gamergate fiasco, whether it's biased or not, again, like you said, there is no real legal consequences towards bias. It's not right, but it is what it is. That being said, there is no room or place in the industry for some of the backlash that was meted out, including revelations of actual physical addresses, people's home addresses, threats of rape, threats of death. You know what? This is not cool.
Agreed.
Agree. And
regardless of how you present it, regardless of whatever your bias is and how you choose to cover the events, there is no room, there is no need for this kind of BS. Keep it clean, report the news, let's move on.
In return to that, I have also I've also linked another video. This is of a gamer journalist named Liana K. I'm not going to pronounce her last name because I would horribly butcher it. Basically saying, people, leave the politics at the door. Just go in and report ethically. Just don't do anything other than that.
Yep.
Don't, if Gamergate doesn't find anything, this will go smoothly.
And they can't, in logical thought, say anything.
Yeah.
Well, and guess what? ethically is how the media should be reporting anyway.
And that's Gamergate's stance on the movement. On their thing. It's a consumer revolt. It's just saying, look, all we want is you to tell the truth. And so we know where to spend our money properly. If your friend is working on the game, just say, hey, full disclosure, my friend's working on the game. Cool, done. We know where you're standing. Thank you.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's all they want. But every time someone is called out on it, they go, oh, well, look how they attacked this woman. And it's like, okay, guys, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're doing this. We are not a part of Gamergate as it stands.
No. Yeah. No, we know what you're saying.
Just clarification.
So, as long as everyone stays on the up and up, there shouldn't be any issues. We just hope that people follow that train of thought.
Yeah, we are going into this event with pins and needles.
Walking on eggshells.
Pretty much.
Keep it clean, guys. Keep it clean.
You keep it clean and move on.
Moving on. So, do you guys like high def video?
Yes.
Is that a trick question?
No,
Kind of.
it's a leading question.
Oh, it's a leading question.
It's a leading question.
No, hate it.
Hate it.
I love
Okay,
the movie
alright.
Dragonheart, and when I saw it in high definition, they totally ruined it. So I hate high definition.
Avatar
Okay, but what
sucked
about-
in high definition?
What about videos that have been natively shot in high definition? You're good with that.
I can accept that.
You like DVDs.
Sure, yeah.
Have you ever had opportunity to watch anything in 2K on YouTube or Netflix?
I think I've seen stuff in 4K.
Okay.
I myself don't have the capabilities for that, but at outside sources, I think I've had the ability to witness that.
Okay, cool.
Pretty impressive.
YouTube just announced
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it has a video in 8K.
The bacon?
8K.
8K. Because
8K.
4K wasn't enough.
So they play the video on 2 4K monitors.
No.
Oh.
No. It has 4,328 lines of resolution. So, native DVD is 1080p. This is 4320p. Ultra,
heck.
mega, super, incredible high def.
Okay, so let me ask this question, and I know what your answer is going to be, so I'm going to take it off the table. Because we can is not a viable option.
Sure.
Why?
It does seem kind of far-reaching. I mean,
Yeah.
It does. So let me set the setting. It was shot in a California ghost town that I cannot find the name of right now. It was shot using a red Epic Dragon 6K camera. Now, obviously, 6K is not 8K, so what they did was they shot it in portrait mode. They had to cheat to get the 8K.
Red Dragon 6K.
Red Epic Dragon.
Red Epic Dragon?
Epic Dragon.
It's an epic dragon.
Just take a look at what this behemoth must look like.
Sure. It's about the size of a GoPro.
Yeah, it's the next GoPro. Sure.
Whatever.
It's not as big as I would have anticipated it to be,
Uh-huh.
but I guess that might be the my naivety and not being familiar with cinematic style cameras.
It does.
It just
look
has
like,
a bigger sensor in it.
It does look like a shoulder, control.
It's a shoulder camera, yeah.
But
I've seen like some of those ultra high speed cameras where they can do stuff in slow motion. I think those are a bigger unit than this one is.
Right. So, Google, in their Mountain View Fortress, had added the 8K label to YouTube earlier this year, but there was no footage in it. As far as we know, this video entitled Ghost Towns is the first and to my knowledge, only 8K video posted on YouTube. The problem is, not many people will be able to play it in native resolution. Now, of course, you can go to the video and click play, and it will sense what you have and
scale it
the best
down.
possible speed. Yeah, which will probably be 1080p or maybe 1440p, which is a pretty decent resolution, but not many people are going to have the 8K. So back to your question, why? I think this is very forward-thinking for Google. You think
kind of testing the waters up front.
Exactly. How quickly did we go from 480p, which was the original DVD, to high def, which is 1080? Now it's not unusual to have 2K capability.
Is that the ultra high def? Is that what we're going?
That's the ultra high def.
Yeah, so 2K, though, is essentially just a wider view of 1080.
There are more lines as well. It's 1440p, if I remember correctly.
Okay. But isn't 1080p... the 1080 refers to the vertical line, whereas 4K refers to the length of the horizontal? Thought I heard something along those lines.
The 1080p is the number of lines. The 4K is the number of columns.
Okay, that's what I remember hearing. So it's deceptive
so it's not
in a
quite
way.
The same.
Yeah, because they're...
So 4K video is actually 2160p.
Correct. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at... so 1080p is 1920 by 1080.
Yep.
2K is 2048 by 1080. So the same vertical, but longer horizontal. So essentially a wider screen 1080. And then you got 4K at... Standard 4K at 3840 by 2160. And then... No, sorry, that's 4K is 4096 by 2160. Then they've got a UHD that is like... It's actually smaller, which is interesting.
Yeah, this is where we start to get lost in the alphabet soup.
Yeah. Stuff's all over the place.
Oh, yeah. So...
And then 6K, 6144 by 3160. Jesus.
And then 8K. I don't have the horizontal, but it's 4320p lines.
Yeah. I mean, I probably could back into a scale, but that...
Well, okay. It's 8K,
to.
so you're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of 8,000.
Yeah.
So,
Seeing
8196 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Seeing that 4K is 4096, 5K is 5120, 6K is 6144, 8K is going to be 8153 or something stupid. I'll laugh if that's the right number. I doubt it, but it'd be funny.
So you'll be happy to know that both Chrome and Safari will play the video if you have the bandwidth, which nobody does.
Nobody does. I think I know one person that might. Well, group.
A certain three-letter government organization is choking on the video right now.
That's right. You're welcome.
I think this is forward-looking. Again, broadband speeds have been increasing. Quality of TVs has been increasing. It's not unusual. Apple has a consumer-facing iMac that is 5K natively.
Okay.
So we are getting into these higher resolutions as a consumer product, no longer just the realm of cinematography, but actual home use.
Can I ask another scary question?
Yes.
Do we know the length of this video and therefore the file size of this video?
It is 2 minutes and 8 seconds long.
Okay.
Let me see if I can run some math on that.
But your last statement actually kind of got me wondering, are we pushing the bounds of TVs because we're pushing the bounds of the resolution? And then once again, which is pushing the bounds of TVs and then back to resolution. Are we doing a vicious cycle here?
Yes.
Always.
I mean, as we grow in capability to produce this stuff, it's going to force the hand of manufacturers to then make the products that are compatible.
Or
and you're always going to kind of, or better, and then you leapfrog each other. The TVs become better, and then the file size will then meet and exceed that, and you just keep playing this kind of deal. It looks like 8K resolution is only at 7680 by 4320. This is according to the correct sources of Wikipedia. Take it for what it is.
Okay, but that depends on what ratio. In 16:9, it's 7680 by 4320.
Got it.
If you go 16:10, it's 8192. Well, then it jumps up to. Then I think the next
8192 by 5120.
Yeah, the next big thing though, supposedly, is ultra widescreen, which is the 21:9.
Yeah, the 8192 by 5120 is 16:10.
Yeah.
Looks like 8K resolution at a 21:9 ratio is 10,240 by 4320.
It's huge.
Which is a 43.5 megapixel factor.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. I say awesome because I a lot of this is going over my head. They're just really, really big numbers that are supposed to give me super extra clarity when I'm watching something on a capable component.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's pick a size. So give me 16:9.
16:9
at 8K.
At 8K, you want what the resolution factors?
Yep.
7680.
7680
by 4320.
4320. So we are estimating 1.9 gig per second.
Holy crap.
This is uncompressed. Now you figure YouTube is going to compress this to get it to you.
At 128 seconds.
So 128 seconds times 1.9. 128 times 1.9 is 243 gig.
Okay, that just maxed out my SSD.
Yeah.
That's the scary problem. And that's, now what's the next problem, right? It's going to be more and more storage.
Absolutely.
And
well, we've got multi-mega terabyte drives coming. We've covered that.
Yes, I know. But we're still waiting for those to be, in the realm of affordability and accessibility. Yep. So, yeehaw. Super extra duper high speed.
And, we're talking pie in the sky stuff. Yes, this video exists. No, nobody can play it right now, or very few people actually have the capability of playing it. But we're a tech show, and this is just cool.
Yes. Someday, 8K will be the standard, and they'll be looking at 16K. Think about that
32K.
By that time, it'll just be sent straight into your brain.
Exactly.
No, and then Oculus Rift will have 8K. Oh, Lord. Well, very good. Little light on the news this week because we had a lot of personal and movies to catch up on. Hopefully you guys don't mind. But we appreciate you listening and joining us once again. Do touch base with us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll admit we have been a little bit more active on Twitter than on Facebook. We're sorry about that. We'll do better.
No, we're not.
We're not really. But Twitter at Abundance Not, Facebook.com/abundance.not, or you can follow and comment on our YouTube channels. So take a look at us there.
Sounds good.
Anything else, fellas?
Stay tuned for E3.
Yeah, big E3 coverage next week. I'm assuming Wade is going to be hot on that.
I will try to be. I've actually requested the days off, so I do have those 3 days off. Yay.
Fantastic.
But
Good
I will
man.
be. I had to switch days for my normal weekend. I'll be working my normal weekend, but I actually had those 3 days paid.
Nice.
So it's like, yeah, I'll work these days, get paid, have these days off, still get paid, make the money.
Making
The
and
things we
printing
do
that
for
money.
you, oh listener.
That's right. So stay tuned. We should have plenty of information on that on next week's podcast, and perhaps sooner with potentially some live updates. So we'll see how that goes. And once again, thanks for listening.
Keep on gaming.
That's a wrap.